Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox.
Good to see everybody today on a Tuesday evening on Constituency Week. The OGO Committee is hard at work, thanks to the Conservatives, because if it were up to the Liberals, they wouldn't be nowhere near Capitol Hill at this point. So
no, they wouldn't.
So excellent to see the investigation into ArriveSCAM continuing. Make sure you like that link and share this out. We are a little behind in terms of the viewers to likes. We're about 40 behind, so let's keep that going, everybody. Thank you very much. Before we get started, just want to acknowledge some of the pre-stream contributions from people. So Women Hauling Oversize, I see, is watching us all the way down in Kansas, Strong City, Kansas. So thank you very much for that, Women Hauling Oversize. And also purchasing a membership. Thank you. Rob Barkhouse, same thing. Thank you for purchasing a membership. Troy Boyarski with 20 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you very much. Goko Donnie following that up with 5 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. If you received a membership from one of them, please send a thank you over their way. And Paula Clark just sending us some love with some emojis, and Rob Barkhouse with a member comment. Love this channel and all its members. We certainly do as well. So thank you very much, everybody. And the attendees are flooding in for Northern Perspective Committee live stream. Thank you very much.
And please hit that doorbell on the way in.
Absolutely. We are now almost 200 behind. We were almost there, folks. We're only 40 behind, and now we're almost 200 behind.
So make sure you hit it.
So welcome, everybody. So as everybody's filtering in, and Mr. Excuses rejoining as NP supporter, welcome back aboard, sir. Want to just talk about what we anticipated would happen after the votes last week didn't go the Conservatives' way. Jerry Savoy, $2 super chat. Sorry, late. YouTube didn't notify me. You should be sorry, Jerry. You're like 3 minutes late.
I just want to cut in. YouTube has been doing some very strange things, even on our end, like on the creator side. There's definitely a bug on our end that YouTube has acknowledged and said that they're working on. I know someone in the Discord has said that they're not able to tag people like in the live chat. So I think that YouTube's got a few bugs it needs to work out. Please be patient. Unfortunately, it's not anything we're able to assist with at this time. But hopefully YouTube fixes it and it gets better.
Best thing we can say is double check our channel and check that you have notifications turned on for Northern Perspective. And Nilik with a $2 super chat, ding dong on time, ready to rock. Excellent.
Rock and roll.
So before we get to the committee, wanted to just talk about something quickly. So as everybody knows, there was 2 important votes last week. One was the Conservative motion to stop the April 1st carbon tax, which the NDP and the Liberals obviously voted against. And then there was the non-confidence that the NDP voted against there too. So we anticipated that what this was a calculation for the Conservatives to put even more pressure on the NDP, and looks like it's working. If you look, Nanos released another poll, and that's the one that we're going by because it is the most Liberal friendly. And you see that last week the NDP were at 20.3. The previous week they were at 21.2. So they have fallen yet again back below 20 points in terms of the 20% of the popular vote. They haven't been there, according to Nanos, for a while, all the way back to January 12th. So they are sliding back down. So good on the people that are answering these polls that are waking up and realizing the NDP is just not worth it. So we anticipate to see that continuing to go down. The Conservatives, they actually gained 0.1% on that, so that is not a surprise. And as we saw, the Liberals lost a massive 0.6%. That's big in the political numbers realm, everybody. So
And it's important to keep in mind that Nanos does use a small sample size of 1,000,
Yep.
which is kind of the quote unquote smallest that they're recommended to use. So it's not as accurate as, say, the Abacus data poll from earlier in the week, which had 3,500 people.
Yeah, and they actually had the NDP at all the way down to 19. So we're actually giving the NDP the benefit of the doubt here, right? So we're going with the more friendly looking numbers to them. So so that's just something to keep your eyes on, folks. Anyway, so that's where we're at. And I don't think we have anything else that has come in.
Just a few ground rules before we continue. Since it's a weeknight committee live stream, unfortunately, we will not be able to address general comments or questions in the chat. We're expecting this to go at least 3.5 to 4 hours. Hopefully not up to 5, though they have gone up to 5 in the past. So just to keep things quick, we won't be able to address comments or chats in the live chat. We will be addressing super chats, and Barnaby is in the chat if you'd like to talk to him, if you have any questions for him, if there's anything you want to tell him, or if you want to put in your drink order, I'm sure he'll be happy to take that.
Your virtual drink order,
yeah. And we also want to remind you, please, no selling, soliciting, or spamming in the chat. Please respect each other and the platform, and please use parliamentary language only.
And I will also say that if we happen to get to, I will say, 1,800 likes, I will let you all in on a big secret. So if we get to 1,800 likes, you get a big secret. I let some of the early birds know, so it pays to be early. You're not allowed to tell anybody. So don't spoil it for everybody else. Just bask in the fact that they will be sitting in anticipation, hoping we get up to 1,800 likes in this in this stream. So it's some exciting news. So anyway, without further ado, let us get into this committee meeting with the mighty Ogo and the CBSA executives. It should be an interesting one.
Welcome to meeting number 112 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates, also known as OGO. The committee, so nice, they named it twice. Pursuant to Standing Order 1083C and the motion adopted by the committee on Monday, October 17, 2022, the committee is meeting to consider matters related to the ArriveSCAM application. As always, colleagues, keep your earpieces away from the microphones as it causes feedback and potential injury to our very valued interpreters. I understand, Mr. Moore, you have an opening 5-minute statement. Go ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
Something just popped into my head. There's also a really good reason that the Conservatives are forcing these committee meetings during constituency week. Any guesses?
I'm going to say it's so that the Liberals have to cancel or reschedule their constituency appointments. And then when they go, oh, why? Why is my appointment with my MP canceled or moved? Then the Liberal, well, they probably wouldn't say this, but they should say, oh, well, it's because our government is so corrupt that we have this big, huge investigation going on, and I have to attend it because our government is so corrupt and we have this big, huge investigation going on.
Yeah, that's one way to put it, I guess. The other way that I would put it is this is taking valuable time away from the NDP, the Bloc, and the Liberals from actually spending with their constituents trying to bolster their polling numbers. So it is actually putting them under tremendous pressure with the fact that they actually have to spend all of these hours with committee. And the Conservatives, like, I'm sure that they would like to spend time with their constituents, but they're a bit more comfortable in the fact that they don't need to because they are ahead in the polls. So it's a lot more pressure for the Liberals and the NDP because they don't actually get to do any campaigning at all because they're stuck cleaning up their own mess. Spawny 420 with a $4.20 super chat. Very well played. It's 420. Puff, puff, pass. Okay. Thank you very much. All right, let's get to the opening statements by these guys.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and honourable members of the committee. I would like to thank the Auditor General and the Procurement Ombud for their reports, which have identified some important lessons for us all. The Canada Border Services Agency has already implemented a number of actions to address their recommendations. At the onset of the pandemic, the CBSA was focused on protecting our borders while maintaining the flow of essential travellers and trade. The agency needed to adapt its operations at a time of considerable uncertainty over the health risks. The need for ArriveSCAM arose quickly when it became clear that the manual, paper-based processes for tracking contact tracing and the health information of travellers did not meet the needs of the Public Health Agency of Canada. FAC asked the CBSA to assist them by developing a digital form, and the first version of ArriveSCAM was released 6 weeks later. Over the following 2.5 years, the CBSA responded to the changing health requirements set out in over 80 orders in council by releasing 177 different versions of the app. The agency has estimated that the border health measures related to the ArriveSCAM app cost $55 million, including a number of non-IT costs, such as $6 million for the Service Canada call centre. The Auditor General and the Procurement Ombud reports have identified a number of serious weaknesses in the procurement and internal controls processes. We have accepted their recommendations, and our management response plans are now already underway. I would like to highlight a few of those actions aimed at strengthening the agency's governance and assurance functions. We have strengthened the first line of defence by requiring all HQ staff with financial delegations to retake 4 procurement training courses to help them better understand their responsibilities. Given the weaknesses in procurement oversight, we have established a new Executive Procurement Review Committee to strengthen the second line of defence by reviewing all contracts and task authorisations over $40,000. We have also established a new Procurement Centre of Expertise, which is developing an ongoing programme of quality assurance reviews to ensure compliance with the directive, with a particular focus on the need for proper record keeping. Our management response plans are aligned with the plans of other government departments, as developing the ArriveSCAM app was a shared responsibility. The agency leveraged PSPC's contracting authority on over 30 of those contracts and Shared Services Canada for 7 contracts. The CBSA was the contracting authority for the remaining 4 contracts. In the first year, the agency was responsible for managing the development, enhancement and operations of the ArriveSCAM app on behalf of the Public Health Agency of Canada. However, no new funding was received in the 2020-2021 financial year, and the costs were coded to a general COVID-19 pandemic measures account, which would have included other pandemic-related expenditures such as personal protective equipment and enhanced cleaning. The agency did establish a dedicated financial code in the second financial year, when funding was provided by the Public Health Agency and the Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada. And in hindsight, this should have been created earlier. I am very proud of my employees, my colleagues and the frontline border services officers who served Canada throughout the pandemic. We acknowledge the serious deficiencies and we welcome the lessons learned. We are now focused on addressing the recommendations that have been made. We'd be pleased to answer any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so not really much different than from what we've heard. It's more, things were busy, things were tough, and things were chaotic, but we got it built. We're amazing. And yeah, we didn't manage things, financially well at all, but, coulda, woulda, shoulda. And look at that. We've asked everybody to take the training over again because, that's gonna dissuade people from criminal behavior. All of this stuff is actually going to do nothing. None of this would have prevented what happened. But anyway, holy moly, Sean, 50 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Holy cow, man.
Thank you very much, Sean. And if you receive them, please make sure you say thank you to Sean.
Thank you. Cannot say thank you enough. Absolutely amazing. 420 hitter with another 420 super chat. Puff, puff, pass. Hit that. And hit that and that like button. I gotcha.
Yes, make sure you hit the like button because we're going to share a secret at 1,800 likes.
There you go. And Sean with a $5 super chat. Sorry it took so long, but unlike Trudeau, I pay my debts, bets included. Sean,
Awesome.
you didn't
Thank
have
you.
to, but we really, really appreciate it. Thank you. And Peter G with 5 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you so much. And Rob Barkas following that up with a $10 super chat. Come on, Cypher, let's be honest with ourselves here. If the Liberals or NDP actually cared about their constituents, Canada wouldn't be in the mess it is here today. I completely agree, but they're going to care about votes on election day. So that's what I was referring to. And Austin Gauthier with 50 Northern Perspective gifted memberships. Holy moly.
Thank you very much, Austin.
You know, it's almost like it's somebody's birthday. Oh, wait. It is somebody's birthday. You know whose birthday it is, everybody?
Not mine.
It's Barnaby's birthday. So everybody wish Barnaby a happy birthday and buy him a virtual shot at the virtual bar. So thank you very, very much for that, everybody. Okay. And we have Nilik with a $5 super chat. By the sounds of it, they are creating another drain of tax dollars with a new committee for oversight. So more discussing the problem than solving it. Yep. Yeah. The issue is that they need to hold people accountable, and they're not doing that. That's the problem, right? You know, more process does not solve the fact that they're not holding people accountable. That's the issue. And you're right. It's just adding more bureaucracy, more time, and more waste and slowing down the whole government process. So there you go. All right, let's get into questions.
Great, thank you very much. We'll start with Mr. Brock, please, for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for your attendance today. My focus will largely be with you, Mr. Moore, but I invite anyone else on the panel to weigh in if you feel you can contribute in some fashion to the response. I appreciate your opening statement, Mr. Moore. We've heard that from a number of officials at CBSA, and I mean no disrespect when I say this, but I'm not interested in lessons learned. I'm interested in how we got here and the issues that are really concerning to Canadians. There seems to be a culture of hiding information, threatening those that come forward, reprisals, and a general lack of accountability from senior leadership at CBSA. This committee has bona fide concerns that CBSA's top brass is covering up and deliberately trying to hide their actions while scapegoating others. There are now over 12 investigations taking place because of this debacle. My time is limited. I'm going to be asking for straightforward and honest responses, please. Mr. Moore, we've seen the ArriveSCAM briefing packages that went to Ms. O'Gorman. Your name is all over these documents, as is Min Doan and Kelly Belanger. This committee has been lied to by current and former senior CBSA leadership, particularly Mr. Doan, Ms. Belanger, and former President Mr. Osowski. I expect you to tell us the truth today. Will you agree to that, sir?
Thank you for the question. I hope that everyone tells the truth and answers your questions to the best of their ability.
Thank you.
I will certainly do that.
Thank you.
All right, so that's kind of an unofficial oath that Brock made him kind of do, right? So
Hold him to it.
there you go. So we'll see what happens. But yes, Barnaby did have a birthday. We skipped over it last year because we weren't live streaming as often last year.
I don't think we were live streaming by this point at all last year. I don't think we started.
Actually, that's right.
I don't think
June.
we started until May or June. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Speaking of live streams, and since we're at the beginning of this live stream, before we forget,
most people will still be watching tomorrow.
yeah. So this coming Sunday, we will not be having a live stream because it's Easter. We're gonna push it one day earlier to the Saturday instead. So this Saturday, the 29th. That's the
30th.
Oh, the 30th. So this Saturday, the 30th, we're going to have our live stream at 9:30 p.m. Eastern.
Because we're respectful of everybody's time and everybody's Easter Sunday. So
and we're going to be spending it with our family as well.
Yeah. So there you go. So we're going to be moving that. All right. So unlike Trudeau, we're not moving it 1 week later. We're actually shifting it earlier by a day. So.
There you go.
Okay. Here we go.
So the biggest question that we need to put a final point on without deliberating any further is who at CBSA was responsible for the decision to choose GC strategies, also known as Government of Canada strategies. We've had evidence from Cameron MacDonald on 2 occasions confirming that. Mr. Antonio Utano confirming that it was Mindone. We also have what was really telling is a public document, an ATIP response from CBSA, which confirms in Annex A of the document that, and I'm going to read this out, who made the decision to contract GC? My office. This is in reference to Mindone's office and Kelly Belanger's office. Same office. My office made the decision to pursue the contract with GC Strategies. The 2 proposals for the work were presented to the CIO and president, and the decision was made to proceed with GC Strategies as their proposal and approach aligned what the CBSA was looking for, particularly rapid staff augmentation. The Deloitte proposal was a managed service using their cloud instance. This would have involved additional risk and did not align with our decision to build cloud mob competencies with the agencies. Are you prepared right here and right now, sir, Mr. Moore, to confirm once and for all that it was Mindone who ultimately made the decision to go with GC Strategies? Yes or no?
So I'd like to provide some additional clarification for the committee. So there were 2 decisions here. The first decision was how the ArriveSCAM app would be developed. That decision was a staff augmentation decision. The decision was to keep this in-house in order to develop the app and use staff augmentation to bring in the technical services required. The other option was the managed service approach, which is the Deloitte option. It was decided at that time by the executive committee that the managed services option would not be appropriate because it was unclear what the statement of work would be from the Public Health Agency of Canada.
Sir, this is all evidence we've already heard. I don't need you to waste valuable time that I have to repeat that. I'm sure you've been following the committee and you know what the evidence has already led. Will you confirm with me right now, at this point in time, that Mindone was charged with the responsibility of choosing Government of Canada strategies?
So I can confirm once the staff augmentation model was agreed, the ISTB branch was responsible for putting in place the resources required, whether those be resources from...
And was that Mindone, sir, yes or no? Was that Mindone?
He was the Vice President of the Information Science and Technology.
Was that Mindone, sir, yes or no?
He was the Vice President, and it was a decision made by...
And the Vice President at that time was Mindone, correct?
That's correct.
Why did you have a difficult time saying that?
Because he is the Vice President.
Right.
All the documentation has been signed.
End of discussion. You've now confirmed, as many people have confirmed, that it was Mindone. Mindone repeatedly lied to this committee, saying he didn't personally make that decision, his team did. So I'm very glad for your honesty, and we can clarify that and move on.
But I think
now, this was, sir, I asked the questions.
Oh.
Love it.
Okay, everybody, we finally got there. We finally got there after what now? 4 months? 5 months? Holy moly. And we finally got there after over a year of the mysterious question of who chose GC strategies. Oh, well, we're looking into that. So this is interesting. It's very, very, very interesting. You have Cameron MacDonald, who is a Director General, who's it's still an executive position in CBSA, and you have Tony Utano, who was also a director within CBSA. So those are like kind of your bottom level executives. Now you have Mindone, who chose that. So that's interesting. I still have a question over was it really a choice, or was it a choice by omission because of what was put forward by Cameron MacDonald and Tony Utano? So that's something for everybody to consider, right? And we've discussed this before. Is something a choice when the options are manipulated prior to that. Now, the thing with this is that going back to Mindon's testimony, it was sketchy as all can be. There was non-answers and like I'm sorry, at that point I would have just said, as the CIO, yes, I'm responsible for signing off on that. My team brought me the options. I'm responsible for that decision. The buck stops with me. He should have said that. And if he believed that there was poison in the choice that was brought to him, he could have said that, but he didn't. So this is the problem here. But this gets into this whole tangled web that Christian Firth actually warned everybody about way back in November when he said everybody has dirt on everybody. So it's unraveling this web of deceit, of lies, of corruption, but the good thing for the Conservatives is they've moved up another level in this government. They've moved closer to elected officials by bringing this up to a vice president / CIO level. So that's a big point of progress for them. Now they're going to be playing at that level instead of the Cameron McDonald and Tony Utano level. So very, very interesting development this early on in committee. No climax based on this, so this should get even more interesting as we go. Jarsha with a $5 super chat. No way. Happy birthday, Barnaby. Mine was yesterday. Oh, happy birthday,
Happy
Jarsha.
birthday.
Excellent. And we have Leo Orchard with a $5 super chat that YouTube just took away from me.
It says, why are there so many Englishmen involved in this farce? I can only apologize on behalf of the rest of us.
Well, your apology is accepted. And Sheila Story with a $202 super chat. Holy
wow,
moly.
thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sheila, for that. Very, very much appreciated. We have such a generous community here with Northern Perspective. We appreciate every dollar. Thank you very much. And Goko Dani with a $2 super chat. Brock is the Baba Yaga. Full stop. Yeah, maybe I need to redo that short.
yeah. Between him and Cooper, they both just like annihilate the Liberals.
We call him Baba Yaga. All right, here we go.
This was such a political hot potato for the government that the Minister of Public Safety at the time, Marco Mendicino, had significant concerns with Government of Canada strategies, particularly with the millions of dollars received. And we now know that they receive upwards to $19 million for their involvement in this particular boondoggle. Now, we know that Mr. McDonald, Cameron McDonald, was threatened by Min Doan on October 28, 2022. There was a phone call. He was told that the public safety minister at the time, Marco Mendicino, was unhappy with the ArriveSCAM media coverage and wanted someone's head on a platter. He was worried that either he or you, sir, Jonathan Moore, were going to get fired, so he was talking about someone's head on a platter. Is that my time?
That is your time, sir.
All right, thank you.
Mr.
I'll be
Malbratch,
back.
back to replying the next round. Mr. Sousa, please go ahead for 6.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Moore, did we ever have a contract? Does it even exist? A company by the name of Government of Canada Strategies? Is that such a? Is there a company by that name?
There is a company by that name.
Oh, no! Oh, that backfired on you, Sousa, didn't it?
Whoops.
Oh, you suck, and he's already red.
And we have, in the ArriveSCAM, there was 4 separate contracts in the name of GC Strategies.
That's funny.
But what are they called? Is the name Government of Canada?
Point of order.
Strategies, or is it
Point of
called
order,
GC
Mr. Chair.
Strategies?
Sorry, I'll pause your time, Mr. Sousa. Your point of order, Mr. Brock?
Yes, Chair. Mr. Sousa is deliberately misleading the evidence. We've already got confirmation from Christian Firth that GC Strategies,
That's not a
GC
point of
stands
order,
for
Mr. Chair.
Government
I
of
know.
Canada.
I'll get to
That
here.
came
Mr.
right
Point
from
Mr. Brock?
Christian Firth.
Latitude.
Yeah.
I'm just
Continue,
trying-
Mr. Sousa. You've got 5.5 minutes.
Oh, so the Liberals don't like it when the Conservatives call a point of order. Okay. And no, that was not a point of order, but still,
Well, and
he's
Kelly-
playing by their rules.
Kelly was being fair.
Yes,
right?
he was being fair. He was saying, Mr. Brock, that wasn't a point of order. So Kelly did exactly what he's supposed to do. Remember, folks, a point of order, the reason for calling a point of order is to call attention to the fact that a member or members of committee are not following standard operating procedures as it relates to that committee. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to cite the standard procedures that they're either violating or breaking or trying to circumvent. Now, a lot of times what MPs will do is they will call a point of order because they want to make a point, or they want to kind of interject, they want to filibuster. There's many non-valid reasons for calling a point of order. I think we've probably seen every example of that from the Liberals, but now they're getting upset when the Conservatives are calling a point of order. So so there you go. That's just how it works. So Diane Sylvain with a $10 super chat. Thank you very much. Brock is on fire, and so am I. Hallelujah. Yo, man. Time for the truth to come out before the budget. I am expecting something big being exposed before the vote of the budget.
I hope so.
That seems to be what the plan is, Diane. We're in agreement with that. So there's a lot of push from the Conservatives right now. They seem to be targeting the budget vote whenever that comes, and pushing Jagmeet to maybe make a decision before then. Don't know, but that seems to be what they're driving at. And 5W with a $2 super chat. Looks like Susan's been drinking.
Yeah, maybe he's been visiting Barnaby's bar too much.
Yeah, too much. Barnaby, Susan's cut off because they'll probably say this drink has nothing to do with the ArriveSCAM, does it? Because I want another. All right, here we
And
go.
make sure you hit that like button. We're going to tell you a secret at 1,800 likes.
1,800. So the more you like, the more viewers we get, and the more likes we get, and you get to the secret.
I appreciate it. I just want to get clarity if, in fact, the company is called GC Strategies or, in fact, it's called something else. And I don't believe there is a contract with any name by the name of Government of Canada Strategy. It doesn't exist.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Mr. Moore, is that correct?
I can confirm that all of the contracts are in the name of GC Strategies.
Fair enough. Mr. Moore, can you provide us some context now? I think there's some clarity that's required in terms of the last round of questions. To whom was ArriveSCAM? How did it become ArriveSCAM in the first place? Who ultimately made decisions collectively to achieve what has been established to this point? Like right now, the question is who signed for GC Strategies? We're all concerned about how those contracts were arrived at and to what extent there was privilege that was possibly given to one contractor over another. Please confirm.
So I think there's a couple of questions in there, but I think what I would say is that the contracts with GC Strategies were arranged through the contracting authority, which is PSBC, and the CBSA, who is the technical authority. The contracts are signed by the Board of Technologies and Innovation Directorate, and at that time the majority of the contracts were signed by Mr. Itano, who was the Executive Director, and the counter-signatory was Mr. MacDonald, who was the Director General. What I said in my previous answers was the Vice President at that time was Mr. Minduan. So the Information Science and Technology branch was responsible for developing the application and implementing the application within 6 weeks of the start of the pandemic.
In terms of the Auditor General's report, and you've read it, I presume you've seen, I know you have because you've provided your concurrence with some of her recommendations. There's a dispute in terms of what amount was actually attributed to the overall program that that grew throughout the process. Can you give us some clarity in terms of those numbers?
So the CBSA supports the calculation of $55 million as the total costs of the public health measures within ArriveSCAM. The OAG, in their report, actually confirm that in paragraph 1.24, that they identified the public health components as being $53 million. However, they did add a further $6.2 million for the e-declaration, the customs e-declaration, which computerized the old E311 form. And on that basis, they came up with a calculation of $59 million. We have a detailed reconciliation between the two numbers and what has been included in our numbers around the public health measures and what's been included in the OAG numbers, which include other activities, in particular the e-declaration, but also mobile border costs.
And who was making those decisions as it escalated? I mean, obviously, there are a number of contractors that got engaged in this. Who made those other decisions for these other contractors?
So in terms of the overall cost of ArriveSCAM, at the start of this process, we did not know what the cost would be. And in fact, in year one, we expended about $5.6 million. And none of that was funded externally. We had to fund that within the CBSA itself. In the second year, we did receive some additional funding. We received $12.37 million from the Public Health Agency of Canada, and we are in Supplementary Estimates B, and we also received $12.4 million from the Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada in Supplementary Estimate C. Therefore, in the second year, we had a $25 million budget, which we managed to. We managed to a separate cost centre. That's when we created the new code. In the third year...
So I have a problem with Mr. Moore here. He's not answering the questions. Surprise, surprise. That seems to be a theme from CBSA executives. Who made those decisions? Well, you know, we had this budget in the first year, and we had this budget in the second year, and now I'm going to talk about the budget in the third. Who approved that stuff? That's the question. And it's actually a reasonable question from Mr. Souza, because the initial cost was estimated to be 80 grand. So obviously more money was needed. Who authorized it? That's the question. And this is the thing. This is why I don't accept all of these guys coming on here and saying, well, we received all of these recommendations and we've implemented these recommendations and we're confident that this won't happen anymore. Well, listen, you're not even answering the questions of the committee as to who authorized this crap. You're not answering it. So nobody trusts what you're saying, and nobody trusts that you're going to follow what these new recommendations were, because you're not even answering the question. Just want to make sure that we're up to date here. I think we're not up to date, so give me 1 second, everybody. Goko Donnie with a $2 super chat. Hit that like button, darn it.
That's right. 600 more likes, and you guys get to hear our secret.
There we go.
There you go.
We requested funding, and in Budget 2022, it was announced that the agency would receive $25 million. So over the course of the 3 years, the money was incrementally provided to the CBSA. I recognise that this should have been established as a project from the start. It wasn't, and that is very unfortunate because it meant that we did not have the normal governance structures associated with project management.
Is ArriveSCAM being used still today?
ArriveSCAM is still in operations. I actually used it myself a couple of weeks ago to return to Canada. And around about 300,000 people a month do use it. So about 3.6 million people use it. There are big advantages with using ArriveSCAM. There are now dedicated lanes at the international airports which operate with ArriveSCAM, so you can get to the front of the lanes. And also it reduces significantly the transaction time at the primary inspection kiosk.
I'm sure it does.
Did CBSA have the ability to do it in-house as you initiated, as you stated earlier?
Well, I would say the CBSA did do this in-house. However, they used staff augmentation to assist them. I think one of the lessons learned was we were relying too much on staff augmentation. But staff augmentation is not a bad thing. You need to bring in people who are technical experts, in particular cloud experts, which we may not have in place, but also other experts, in terms of technology architecture, in terms of security, accessibility.
That's disingenuous to say that we did do this in-house. It doesn't count doing it in-house if every single person who worked on it was a contractor that doesn't report to somebody. I should correct that, because if they were hired as contracted staff, then technically they would report to somebody. But they can leave at any time, and you didn't bring them on as full-time employees. They're just a contractor. And they've been sitting there as contractors for how long? and you've been giving GC Strategies and Dalian and Cordex and the rest of them 20-30% on the dollar every single hour that you pay these guys. So it's very disingenuous to say, well, you know, we did do this in-house. No, you didn't. If you hired these guys on as full-time employees, sure. If you hired these guys on as contractors and nobody was taking a cut of that,
Maybe.
I'll even kind of give that to you. But it was never the intention that these guys were going to stay employed with the federal government of Canada. And then on top of that, you didn't actually hire full-time staff to then bring in and then cross-train with these other guys to learn what these guys were doing, so then you wouldn't have to pay the premium anymore. You just continued paying the premium. So what are you talking about? All this is a pervasive waste of taxpayer money. Full stop. And Gibb Salisbury with a 279 super chat. Oh no, it's a redhead. Oh, he's talking about Sousa. That's funny. Excellent.
Oh, I thought Catherine Tate was back.
Oh Lord, no.
She was awful.
Mr. Excuses with a $2 super chat, more or less talks out of his arse. Yeah, he definitely sounds like it. And Joshua with a $2 super chat, more. Let me squeeze in some product placement.
Of course.
Right?
A better way to promote your product than in the OGO committee.
Yeah, like come on.
So it's not a bad thing to bring in contractors and consultants. The issue here is whether we overuse them. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Mr.
Are you kidding me? He just starts laughing at the end of that. The issue here is whether we overuse them. I'm sorry, that is inappropriate.
Yeah, that's not a joke, dude.
Like, are you I hope Brock tears him a new arsehole for that. I really do. The issue is whether we overuse them. Ha 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 ha. Canadians are sleeping in tents, living in cars. Wow. Wow. Jonathan Moore, I am going to be remembering that name.
Mr. Moore, thank you. Mr. Sousa. Mrs. Vignola, please, for 6 minutes.
Merci. Thank you very much, Chair. Gentlemen, thank you for being here with us today. In her report, the AG indicated that the PSPC queried the decision of the PSPC and the CBSA with respect to the proposals that were made. Why were the recommendations from PSPC ignored? And secondly, why did the CBSA accept the recommendations of SPAC because of what was the concern? Thank you so much for your question.
Confirmed, I think, last week by the Deputy Minister of PSPC. These concerns were raised at a Director General level within the Information Science and Technology branch. It is
Director General level would be Cameron McDonald, everybody. Just saying. So he's saying PSPC raised concerns about the potential contracts and the approach. And he's saying, well, you know, they were raised at concerns, you know, at the Director General level within the IT group. That's Cameron McDonald. That's who these concerns are raised with. Any wonder that GC Strategy still went ahead? Things that make you go, Things that make you go,
what the hell is going on?
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. And one Feisy with a $7 super chat. Waitress till Brock rips him a new one. I think you mean wait till Brock lives in one. Okay, Barnaby, one Feisy. No more drinks for at least an hour. Carolyn Gremlin with a $5 super chat. I can't decide whether to call him Dumbo or Alien from Star Trek. Well, let us know what you settle on, Carolyn. And Landon McIntosh, nothing to say, but you guys rock. I'm behind, so I'll hear my name later. You sure will.
Thank you.
All right, off we go.
unfortunate that they weren't raised at a wider level. I myself, as the Chief Financial Officer, did not receive any concerns. I think this is one of the key lessons learned. This is the reason why in the new procurement improvement plan, we've instigated the executive procurement the Executive Procurement Review Committee, which allows us to scrutinise all contracts and all task operations above 40,000. This will provide the second line of defence and allow us to do that.
Merci.
Thank you. So that means then that the recommendations wouldn't have been applied if you had not been informed about it. Should you have been informed about it?
We should have been informed about it. I think PSPC is clear that they did inform the agency, but they informed the agency at the technical authority level. At that time, Alex's team was looking after the CBSA contract authorities, 4 contracts in total. Also, the team were very involved in the acquisition of PPE at that time.
Merci beaucoup. Lors des examens des options des...
Thank you. What proof did you have that GC strategies could really supply a good balance, a cost-effective balance to the federal government?
My understanding is GC Strategies had been working with other departments already and had shown evidence of being able to provide the technical architects required. What this contract was about was the acquisition of technical architects to do specific pieces of work, a range of different skills and range of different experience. The majority of experience required more than 10 years experience in the past. So GC Strategies were providing those. If one of those individuals was not satisfactory, then the Information Science and Technology branch would ask for an alternative.
Okay, so he just said something very, very important there, which was the maximum on the matrix that the Government of Canada uses to evaluate staff and their compensation. So what he just said is that the CBSA required more than 10 years experience for every contractor. And this is the problem, because that's what was invoiced, but what did GC Strategy supply? People that did not have 10 years experience. So they would have been paid less, probably by GC Strategies. So this is interesting. This is interesting. We're going to keep following this. Humble Tracker, good to see you with a $10 super chat. My faith didn't remove the pain, but it got me through the pain. Trusting God didn't diminish or vanquish the anguish, but it enabled me to endure it. And we are all enduring this liberal government as it stands right now. Thank you very much for the quote.
Thank you, Humble Tracker. That was a very beautiful quote.
Merci.
Thank you. Mr. Martel, you received the 2021 prize from ICGM with respect to the ArriveSCAM, and I congratulate you for that. Oh, thank you. Thank you. The reason for the prize was the reduction of time that was necessary for processing people arriving. It streamlined it. And also the various control measures took less time. That was very helpful, demonstrated the abilities of the technical people. If necessary, 40 seconds reduction in wait time per person is something that is gigantic or not? Well, you'd have to speak to colleagues from operations, but certainly there are measures that would have an effect on cost. Thank you. Mr. Moore, on January the 18th, Ms. Ogerman told the committee that a better oversight had been put in place. I have 4 questions with respect to that. For how long have these measures been in place? What are the effects of these measures to date? Are they permanent measures? And my last question, these measures that are presently underway for oversight and verifications, for example, the FFC contract with Deloitte, does that indicate the success in the agency?
So we have been looking at our and developing our procurement improvement plan over the last 9 months. So our first step in that was to remind individual managers of their responsibilities for procurement. So all individual managers with delegated financial signing authority, over 800 people, were asked to do 16 hours of training. So that's the first thing, just to remind people of what they needed to do. The second action was we created the Executive Procurement Review Committee. The first meeting of that was in October, and we are now looking at every TA and every contract. And the third action is we are now implementing a quality assurance review process through Alex's team.
Merci, vous aviez déjà expliqué ces étapes.
Thank you. You explained the steps, but what is the effect to date? What would...
So 800 people, 800 tax-paid people had to take 16 hours of training on how to procure something in the government. Point of order.
Point of order, that seems excessive and ridiculous.
Why the hell does it take 16 hours to learn how to procure something in the government of Canada? Can you please explain that one to me, Mr. Moore?
Because we need to waste more taxpayer money?
Like
that's the only answer I can come up with that is probably one that they would give.
let's just do some math. Sorry, buddy, we're gonna have to use math.
Oh, math.
So let's just take an average of $50 an hour times 16 hours. That's 800 hours times 800 government employees. Ladies and gentlemen, that's $640,000 of taxpayer money that we're spending on retraining people. Retraining people. 640 grand, folks.
For procurement.
And that's probably on the light side. Because I just estimated that these people make 100 grand a year. This is 16 hours. You know, I've been at many different organizations, and usually training on how to procure something lasts about an hour, if that, because it's not complicated. But you know, it's government, so we have to make it complicated. We have to make this extremely complicated to create positions for people that would not otherwise exist in other organizations. And that's how you increase the size of the public service by 40% and then fail at delivering further results. So you're failing downward. You're failing upward too. Anyway, okay, so that's my little rant about that.
And we have Mike Tremblay with a $2.79 super chat. Thank you very much. It says like, hit our like button. And that's right. If the likes get to 1,800, we're going to let you guys in on a secret.
So we are 388 away. Let's keep it going, folks.
Did you say?
The effect is we
Brief
have
answer,
much
please, Mr. Moore.
more transparency over all of the actions we're taking on procurement, and we have strengthened first line and second line of defence. This was lacking during the COVID period.
Thank you very much. Mr. Backrack, please.
Backrack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as I mentioned in the sound check, I've come down with a heck of a head cold. So if I have to turn off my camera to blow my nose, I hope the folks in the room will forgive me.
Turn off
Mr. Moore and your fellow witnesses, thanks for being here today and answering our questions. I'll start out with one of your statements from today's testimony. You said that ArriveSCAM was done in-house. And I'm wondering if you can confirm where the intellectual property now resides. Is it the property of the Government of Canada, or does it belong to the contractors that did the bulk of the work?
So I'm pretty certain in my answer to this is that the IPR belongs to the Government of Canada, because this is an app which we developed and we are continuing to operate.
Okay. If you could confirm that and provide that information to the committee after this meeting, it would be appreciated. There's been a fair bit of focus, Mr. Moore, on who signed the contracts, and I think now we have fairly straightforward answers around the role of Mr. McDonald and Mr. Utano. I'm interested in the process of confirming that the work was delivered as required. So I assumedly, at the other end of the process, the contractors complete the work and they submit it, and there's some process of reviewing that work and then signing off on it before the bills are paid.
Okay, so really a couple of really good points by Mr. Backrack. So number one, he's talking about the intellectual property. So for those that may not know what he's talking about, whenever you're in a business relationship with a contractor, whether it's a completely outsourced type of relationship where a company is doing all of the work and then providing you the output of that, or if it is a external contractor that's coming in and reporting to somebody within the organization and doing work, and the output of the work is given to the organization, you always want to be very careful in business of something called IP, or intellectual property. So what do I mean by that? What that is essentially the rights and the ownership to the technology that is actually created. And it's not just technology. This could also be in marketing. It could be logos, it could be branding, it could be design, it could be architecture, it could be a myriad of things. But that's why they call it intellectual property. So the concern is that if it doesn't belong to the government of Canada and they actually didn't get that in writing, these contractors could actually just walk away and take it with them.
Yeah. Well,
and then no more ArriveSCAM.
Barnaby's kind of briefing me on IP rights behind the scenes here. He says Canadian law dictates that the developer owns the IP unless a contract explicitly states it.
Correct. So this is a really important question. And the fact that he said, I'm fairly certain, you better get real certain real quick.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So that's what it's meant by IP. And, if you watch Dragon's Den, they talk about it all the time. And that's why they're asking, do you have a patent that's protecting that intellectual property so somebody can't duplicate it? And then, off they go and either make an investment or not, or make somebody look silly on national television. So that's what intellectual property is in a nutshell. What else do we have in a nutshell? We have Nilek with a $2 super chat. They saw this problem and how we get more. Yeah, exactly. And Whitehill Projects with a $5 super chat. Why is filibustering and lying allowed in committee? Why is no one held in contempt? Time to drain the swamp. So sometimes they will actually at the end of, like, what they'll do is they'll wait until the end of the committee meeting, Whitehill Projects, before they hold somebody in contempt, because they actually want to see how far they're going to go, right? So they'll wait until the end, and then they'll motion to actually hold somebody in contempt. And they did with Christian Firth. They actually did that. The committee agreed to that, and then it was brought to the House of Commons. So
yes, because he didn't produce those documents that he promised to produce, and
was withholding answers from committee. So Christian Firth is in even more trouble.
I have also seen Michael Barrett request the chair, who was Kelly McCauley, call a witness to order. Though I don't recall who the witness was. It
was
may have
Mindone.
been, okay.
It was Mindone, and it may have been both Garnet Janis and Michael Barrett calling asking the chair to call a witness to order. So
yeah, and that was because he wasn't answering questions.
Yeah. Now the next point that Backrack made that I was going to talk about, I am trying to recall what is. Oh yes. So he's asking about the whole business about who reviewed the work. Who reviewed the work that was submitted so it could be paid. So when you're in a procurement process, there's an action called goods received. So anyone who's worked in warehouses or production or anything like that will know what I'm talking about. So essentially what it is you're confirming that you've received what you asked for, and then once you've confirmed that, you sign the invoice, coded appropriately, and then payment is released. So the question from Mr. Backrack is, okay, so who actually reviewed these invoices that were submitted? Now remember, the Auditor General said that these were very sketchy invoices. They didn't even include what they actually did, and these were paid. So this is why Mr. Backrack is actually asking this. And what we were told before was that the technical leads were actually the ones that were reviewing the work and signing the invoices. Who was that? Cameron McDonald and Tony Utano. So all the players seem to be Mindone, McDonald, and Utano, so forth, just within the CBSA. And then everybody who doesn't want to get involved in this is sidestepping this and telling half-truths and lying about it. So that's how this seems to be all playing out as we get further into this. Wayne Noonan with a $7 super chat. I'm late to the party, but I thought, but I bought a new fan. They maybe brought a new fan. If you paid them to come on Northern Perspective, I don't know if you support that way. But even if you did, I admire your
dedication. Yeah.
They've been loving your content, and don't worry, I made sure to make her like and subscribe.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you so
you.
much, Wayne. I saw a whole bunch of thumbs up at some point from Diane Sylvain. Thank you very much for that. And Humble Tracker with a comment. Been a member for 5 months. 42 million for gun buyback that went down the toilet. 60 million on ArriveSCAM. 60 million to give a losing MP a pension, and I am not detailing. There you go.
It's gross how much money this government's wasted, and it's still in the process of wasting
and trying to waste more. Jarsha with a $5 super chat. Not just sous vide Sousa tonight. We got barbecue back wrapped. Who's next? Hard boiled Brock. Brock LaRock. Vesper Digital with $5 super chat. Just click your heels 3 times. Fox. ArriveCAN is Kansas, where you will find the wizard Mindone behind the veil, deleting emails feverishly. Well, Women Hauling Oversize is down there. You want to go pick them up for us and bring them back? That'd be great.
Yeah, maybe undelete some of those emails.
Yeah, exactly. And we have Diane Sylvain with a $10 super chat. What is happening with first appearance to the bar at Parliament? I lost track. And do you think that Mindone will be asked back as a witness to committee? He should be. Oh, I'm sure he will be.
I haven't actually heard about his appearance to the bar at Parliament. I know that that's not a good thing. I had recalled reading about it maybe about a month ago, where they, just for everybody who doesn't know, if you're summoned to the bar, you're brought to, it's like this brass rail, I think, in the House of Commons, and you're essentially chastised by the Speaker, if I'm not mistaken.
In front of Parliament.
Yeah, and it's quite serious. It's not just like a dressing down, like it's considered a very serious affair. So I didn't actually realize that he was being brought to the bar. So I will be looking that up and following that with interest, because that almost never happens.
Yeah, that's what was brought to the House as a motion by Mr. Barrett, and I think that that was passed. So we will be looking at that with great interest, Diane. All right, Let's get back to this, Mr. Backrack.
And hit the like, please.
And his question was, who signed off on these and who proved the work?
This is my basic understanding of the way that the process should work. Were those same individuals responsible for signing off on the invoices prior to the contractors being paid for the work?
So
and confirming that the work was done in good order?
So I can confirm that the work was done in good order through the Financial Administration Act, Section 34 requirements. So, as I said before, the Board of Technologies and Innovation Directorate were responsible for overseeing these contracts. They would receive invoices from the contractors, and their job would be to check that the individuals had done that work, and they were also of the right technical quality and experience in order to make those payments.
So these are delegated authorities assigned to individuals within that secretariat, and those individuals had the training and were responsible for signing off on the invoices to confirm that the work was done. The reason, I see you nodding, so I'll take that as confirmation. The reason I'm asking this is because one of the Auditor General's findings was that CBSA approved timesheets that included no details on the work completed. And this is a quote from the AG's report, this limited the agency's ability to challenge the contractor's invoice without knowing what work was completed, its ability to allocate the invoice to the right project. So I guess what I'm trying to point out is that the AG has highlighted a lack of documentation, which assumedly would have made it difficult for those delegated authorities to confirm that the work was actually done. Were those delegated authorities, those individuals who had the authority to sign off on the invoices, were they provided with adequate information to confirm that the work was actually done?
Yeah, that was a pretty stupid answer, Mr. Moore. I can confirm that everything was, everything was complete in good order. How do you know? because the timesheets didn't even have what they worked on. So how can you confirm that it was completed in good order when you don't even know what work was allegedly completed or if it was completed at all? You can't have it both ways, Mr. Moore. You may have an English accent, and English accents usually, depending on the English accent, you know, this is more of the, I think, the southern London or the London area accent. Mr. Orchard, I'm sure, will correct me if I'm wrong. These are the ones that usually you hear on documentaries that makes people sound really intelligent.
Well, because I think like way back when the different accents kind of signified which class you were from, if you were from
and
the
it's
nobility
because which region you kind of grew up around, right? So it doesn't really mean that way anymore. But like he's not doing well in terms of his answers, and I think we all see that. Wayne Noonan, he's not doing well with a $2.79 super chat. LOL, I meant brought, not bought. Thank you very much for that. So I won't even I won't even give you a video emoji on that. Don't worry.
And we're missing exactly 199 likes until we reveal our secret. So please, if you haven't already, hit that like button.
Yeah, ring the doorbell on your way in, folks. And if you didn't ring it on your way in, ring it now.
So I think there are two issues here. I think one is around certification that the work has been done. The other one is around whether the costs have been allocated correctly to the cost centre. So, for example, a cost centre manager may well have been observing and seeing the individual on the invoice has done 30 hours. However, they may not have then allocated it specifically to ArriveSCAM.
No, that's not what was done. Incorrect. You can see someone working, but the timesheet has to state what they were working on. Like anyone who has managed any sort of project within any sort of organization knows that you need timesheets, and the timesheet has to say what you did. Now, you don't need to put like down to the minute and, you know, I wrote this specific character on this line of code on this hour on this day, but you would at least say, you know, let's look at it from a building standpoint. Yesterday, I spent 2 hours putting up drywall on the west side of the house, and I spent another 3 hours mudding the east side of the house that I put up the day before. Like, that's something. You at least know what they did and what they spent their time on. You don't just say 5 hours. The foreman's going to be like, what the hell were you doing all day?
Before we get back to it and switching gears significantly, I want to go back to the whole bar of the house thing because I found this on the Parliament website and I thought it was quite interesting. Just briefly, the bar is a brass rod extending across the floor of the chamber inside its south entrance. It is this barrier past which uninvited representatives of the Crown as well as other non-members are not welcome. This is why you are not permitted inside the House of Commons on the floor without an MP escort. It goes on to say that individuals may be summoned to appear before the bar of the House in order to answer to the authority of the House. If someone is judged to be in contempt of the House, that is, guilty of an offence against the dignity or authority of Parliament, the House may summon the person to appear and order that he or she be reprimanded by the Speaker in the name of and with the full authority of the House. I'm going to drop that link in the chat as well in case you guys are interested on reading more.
There you go. Now, before we get back to it, Vesper Digital with a $5 super chat. David Lametti deleted his X account. To purge his direct messages. Mindone deleting emails too. Can someone hit a delete button on this government, please? I think we're all trying to do that right now. So maybe we should contract that out to GC Strategies and see if they can make one in 6 weeks. Waifu for Life with a $2 super chat. 2 liberals downvoted the stream. Boo.
Oh, well.
Boo.
Keep hitting that up, vote. We're just over 129 away, and we'll tell our secret. And I promise I'm not pregnant.
There we go.
This was what I said at the start of this evidence, that we did make a mistake in not setting up a separate ArriveSCAM cost centre code from year one. So we were receiving an invoice. We were saying, yes, that 30 hours has been done, but we weren't coding it between ArriveSCAM or between operational expenditures or elsewhere. However, we are now looking at all of these invoices because a number of allegations have been made to go back and to make sure that we have not been overcharged. If we do find that we have been overcharged, we will pursue repayment for those. And the Minister for the Treasury Board announced last week that PSPC had identified some overpayments, and we will be doing the same. If we identify any invoices which were not for work done, we will be pursuing payments for that.
So the Auditor General has said that there weren't adequate details to confirm that the work is done, but you're asserting that the individuals signing off that the work had been done had adequate information to confirm that that was the case. Is that correct?
I'll ask my colleague, Mr. Martel.
Certainement. Merci. Il y a des...
Yes, thank you. There are instructions that are very clear on in the contract with respect to invoicing. They have to look at the details, and if they don't understand the details with respect to that, to the person submitting the invoice can ask questions.
How many individuals at the Secretariat were involved in this process of signing off on invoices?
So I don't have the number of details of the number of individuals who are signing it, but this comes back to the point I made earlier around the delegated financial signing authorizations. So we have over 900 in the agency headquarters in total.
Mr. Moore, could you provide to the committee the names and titles of the individuals who were responsible for signing off on invoices related to the ArriveSCAM contracts?
Yeah, you don't know who was signing off on the ArriveSCAM invoices? Pardon me?
That seems like a pretty important thing that you should know.
What? Oh, come on! You absolutely know that. Give me a break. You 100%, like... you would have supplied this information to the Auditor General's for the Auditor General report. Like, give me a break. You absolutely know. Come on.
I can certainly take that away and see what the evidence we are pursuing at the moment to look at invoices and whether they have been checked.
Okay, I'm not understanding if that's a yes. You can table with the committee the names and titles of the individuals responsible for signing off on the ArriveSCAM work.
I'm hoping that we can do. I'm just saying that we'll go back and...
You're going to check first and see if that information actually exists. Is that, do I understand you correctly?
That's exactly
okay, I would certainly hope that it exists.
Wait a minute. 5 minutes earlier, this guy just said, oh, well, these people, they were able to validate that this work was completed in good order. Who were they? I don't know. What? I got nothing, folks. I got nothing.
But as we've seen throughout this inquiry, there are a lot of surprises. So I'll look forward to providing that information to the committee, and if it's not provided, we'll ask questions about why it doesn't exist. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bachrach. And Mr. Moore and others, just so you're aware, at this committee, we have passed a motion in the past requiring any request for response back has to be within 3 weeks, lest you get called back on why you've not provided that information. So just so you're aware, we're down to second round, 5 minutes. Mr. Brock.
Was that a threat or was that a dig at Firth?
It was both. Why not both?
There you go.
Why not both? Will Kowalchuk with a $10 super chat. I don't understand a government can say they are so transparent and lie so much with a straight face and think we as Canadians will take this as the truth. Well, this is the thing. Before the last couple of years, Canadians weren't really paying attention. And this was probably just standard procedure.
I mean, we weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you think that, we elect these guys into government and they're going to do their job and they're going to do a good job and they're not going to be crooks. Yet here we are.
Yeah. So, but we're paying attention now. Paying attention now, folks. Diane Sylvain, member for 4 months with a comment.
What would you say you do here?
Mr. Moore. Thank you for that. And Jerry Savoy with a $5 super chat. He's so full of crap. Don't know who's worse, Jonathan or Christian or Antonio.
Oh, they're all bad.
Or Darren Anthony or Mr. Yeoman.
I don't know. Darren Anthony was the one that was like reading off of a cue card off screen. It was like, I'm not reading.
I am not reading, despite the fact that Mr. Firth is such a wonderful human being. He is a humanitarian. I am not reading, I swear. 5W with a $2 super chat. Ministry of Silly Walks. Amen to that. Need some John Cleese silly walk antics going on here. Vesper Digital with a $5 super chat. What does it say when CBSA sent an inept Kingsman thinking the British accent will make their stupidity sound smarter? That was what I was saying too, Vesper. Like, you're trying to hide behind the accent and it's not helping. Leo Orchard with a $5 super chat. This dog is upper middle class generic accent, one end of the country to the other. They were bred to be civil servants of empire and still are.
Thank you for clearing that up for us, Leo.
That's amazing. That's going to cause me some
emotional damage.
There you go.
Awesome. Thank you.
That was an amazing comment.
That was amazing.
Women hauling oversized with a $14 super chat. Absolutely, I'll chain him down on the trailer. It looks like women hauling, she's catching up.
Yeah, this is to our earlier comment about Mindone being the Wizard of Oz in Kansas.
So congratulations when you get to this point in the stream, women hauling oversized. That's amazing. I won't screenshot that for the RCMP, don't worry.
Thank you, Chair. Going back, Mr. Moore, to my last question before I ran out of time, the conversation between Mindone and Cameron McDonald in October of 2022, that Marco Mendocino was so unhappy with the media attention to ArriveSCAM that he wanted someone's head on a platter, and that either Mindone would be fired or you, sir, would be fired. He made specific reference to that. Then he turned and said that, you know, Cam, if I have to, I'm going to tell the committee that it was you. So he threatened Cam McDonald. That threat was then relayed up the chain of command. Ultimately, it was communicated to Aaron O'Gorman. And to your knowledge, sir, do you know if anyone, particularly Mindone, was suspended or reprimanded for that threat? Yes or no?
So I think I could start with the comment made by the Minister. I'm not aware of that comment. I've never come across it. In fact, I've never briefed the Minister at that time, and I was not informed.
Mindone confirmed the conversation took place. All right, so we can move on from that. Do you know if Mindone was reprimanded for his threat to Cameron McDonald? Yes or no?
No, I do not, but I understand that this investigation is ongoing.
Have you had any discussions with any of your ministers responsible for the portfolio during the ArriveSCAM rollout? That would include Mendocino, that would include Blair, and that would include LeBlanc. Have you had any personal discussions with any of your ministers?
So personally, I have briefed the ministers in terms of the Sub-B and Sub-C package in 2022. And also in terms of the announcement in the budget 2022 of the 25 million.
Did you update any of the ministers with respect to the overruns with the ArriveSCAM app?
No, because of those briefings, it was a briefing about the supplementary estimates to prepare them for committee.
Were you aware of any other senior executive who would have had those discussions? For instance, the president, the deputy minister, or Gorman and Ossowski. Would they have had those discussions with those three ministers with respect to the cost overruns?
So remember before, we said that the Conservatives have now moved up a level to Mindone. Now they're trying to move into elected officials in government. This is where Larry Brock's line of questioning is going. And it's a very logical line of questioning, because his point is that with all of these massive cost overruns and massive underestimates that have to be funded from somewhere, what he is saying is someone would have had to talk to the minister and say, hey, by the way, we initially were trying to do this for $80,000. We spent $5 million the first year. We're going to need a lot more money in the next year. So we need lots of, millions and millions of dollars, please. So what he's saying is somebody must have spoken to those ministers. Would that have been the president? Would that have been Mindone? Who was it? Very reasonable questioning by Mr. Brock. Alicia Johnson with a $10 super chat. Love your live stream. Has been watching for some time now. Informative and fun. Catching up with the technology. Going to see Melissa Lantzman tomorrow night in Nanaimo, BC. Excellent.
Ooh, awesome. That sounds like fun.
And thank you very much for that comment. That's the fuel that keeps Fox and I going. And David Edwards with a $2 super chat. Send the red coat back to him. The red coats are lying. The red coats are lying. To committee. Kim Hards with a $5 super chat. Unconscious incompetence. There you go. Or conscious. Who knows? Can't prove it.
And we're less than 30 likes away. Please hit that like button and we'll tell you a secret.
28.
I'm not aware, but I can't comment on former president.
Okay. You heard reference to the award that you received for the ArriveSCAM, which really begs the question, why was the award given in light of the Auditor General's report and the Procurement Ombudsman report? Can you actually provide us with documentation, sir, as to how the three individuals identified at CBSA received those awards? Were there nominations, things of that nature? Can you provide that to the committee within 3 weeks?
So again, I'm not aware of those awards, and so I'll have to come back to you on that.
Okay. We heard last week from PSPC that 3 additional companies that received taxpayer monies and should not have received those taxpayer monies are being now investigated by the RCMP. Those 3 companies were not identified by the PSPC because of privacy concerns. Are you familiar with those 3 companies in question, sir?
I'm not familiar with those companies. However, I have been informed by PSPC that the CBSA is involved in this, and our involvement is limited to $15,000.
The CBSA is involved in relation to the 3 companies?
So I'm informed that the individuals who have been identified as fraudulently making claims, some of those claims relate to us. I think there are 36 different departments affected.
Right.
CBSA is affected up to $15,000.
Okay. And that was in relation to their supposed work on the ArriveSCAM app?
It's not necessarily in relation to the work on ArriveSCAM app.
But it could?
In relation to anything else.
But it could?
I'm not aware of the PSPC. I think you'd have to address that to
Okay.
PSPC.
To your knowledge, sir, are there any other companies that are operating under suspicious circumstances with their contracting at CBSA, either under the ArriveSCAM app or other work done at the request of CBSA that are being considered for RCMP referrals?
So I'm not aware of any at the moment, but as I've said before, we are now looking through all of the interactions to see if there are any examples. So, for example, we have done a review of our contractors who are working and whether they are included in the GEDS system, and we have identified a few names there, but I'm pleased to say in all of those cases we have spoken to the other employer.
Thank you, sir. I have in my hand a multi-page letter addressed to Ariane Reza, the assistant, as she was then was, Assistant Deputy Minister for PSPC, in relation to the request for a national security exception in relation to one company. I'm looking at the 3rd page of this document towards the bottom end of it. And you've indicated we have identified a supplier that has already successfully implemented a modern tool for risk assessments on shipments coming into Canada. That he was once involved with Transport Canada that leveraged technology to build a modern cloud-first approach, low-touch process to replace a manual high-touch process. That company in question is GC Strategies, Government of Canada Strategies. Is that correct?
So I do not believe so, mainly because it refers to shipments. It does not refer to individuals, but perhaps I could ask Mr. Leahy to answer that.
I am afraid that is our time. Perhaps next round you can respond to that. Mr. Baines, you're up, please, sir.
Okay. Karm Baines, here we go.
Oh, man.
So good questioning by Mr. Brock there. I think he learned some new things in that, CBSA has $15,000 of fraudulent money that was paid out to people that didn't do any work. And it had nothing to do with GC Strategies, nothing to do with Dalian or Cordex. So there's even more. So this is pretty disgusting. And if you weren't aware, last week Anita Anand and some other people had testified to the fact that there was, I believe it was $5 million that was essentially unaccounted for. So it was paid out, and it looks to be fraudulently billed by these external companies. Again, everyone just trying to dip in to the COVID funds because they thought that, oh, it's gravy time. The government's spending $500 billion.
Well, from what I was reading, there was over 200 CRA employees that had applied for CERB when they obviously were working for the CRA.
And 100 of them, I believe, were fired because 100 of them actually received it.
No, I think it's up to over 200 now.
Oh, no,
is what I read.
It's
yeah.
increasing. So there you go.
Good.
Well, and that's the thing. So you have these people that are just saying,
the government taps are open?
No one's going to pay attention. The government sucks. They can't track anything.
Yeah.
So,
awful. Take advantage of the taxpayer because they think nobody's looking.
Yeah, exactly. It's just disgusting.
It's gross. Yeah.
Just me, Nicole. Good to see you again with a $5 super chat. Wish I could sneak in some truth serum into their water. Could you imagine? Yeah, wouldn't that be interesting? And getting back up here to White Hill Projects with a $2 super chat. You guys are amazing. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much for that.
We will.
And Barry M. with a $5 super chat. Do you think Justin knows he's going to be voted out and will try to destroy this country on his way out, as he knows no one can stop him?
I think he thinks he's doing a great job and that he's going to remain prime minister forever.
Yeah, I seriously think, he is that narcissistic and egotistical. He probably believes that. And Casper H., great to see you with 10 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you very, very much for that. Okay, so we're at 1,828 likes.
Which means we get to spill the beans.
So it's funny that that Mr. Brock just finished speaking. So what the secret is we actually have a date with Mr. Brock. So we are going to be doing a 2-on-1 interview with Mr. Brock directly, and the topic is going to center around the SNC Lavalin scandal and the recent developments that have been coming through there. So we're hoping that we're going to get a good amount of time with him, and we're hoping to record that sometime this week, and then drop that probably early next week if all goes well. You know, it all
again, in
depends on what
politics,
happens.
anything can happen, but we are scheduled to meet with him later this week, and we're both very, very excited.
So it was great. He asked during the interview last week, and if you haven't seen that, go watch that. The conversations with conservatives, and he asked to come on the show again, so we are more than happy to oblige that. And
Barnaby's giving me crap in the background because I guess we forgot to tell him.
Well,
sorry,
you were
dude.
Busy. It happened today. What do you want?
Yeah, we just nailed down the details today. So.
What do you want?
Sorry, dude.
Plus, everybody works through the day. What do you want? So, anyway, so there you go. There's the secret. So. I would say it's members only because most people on here are members, and by the end, most people are probably going to be members. But for all the new people and all the non-members, we're happy to have you. We're happy to let you in on that as well.
On our secret.
Keep your eyes out for that coming up. You'll definitely see some more media from us as we get the recording done, and then we'll start kind of advertising for that. So excellent. I think that's it. So now we continue on with Mr. Baines. He's like the Eeyore of the Liberal Party.
Yeah, I think so. That's a really good analogy.
Like, I'm going to ask you questions now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you to our witnesses for joining us today. My question, I will address Mr. Moore first here. As you know, sir, elected officials come and go, but in our
like
public service, we have people who spend decades in the bureaucracy and program areas, and we learned from GC Strategies. Mr. Anthony, who had been working in the IT sector for companies since 2005. Mr. Firth said he had been working since 2007. And the procurement processes in place on how to obtain some of these contracts have been around since 2003. So we're talking over 20 years where these contractors, subcontractors, many of whom who interchange with different companies that are all working on various projects with government. And over time, there's relationships that have been built amongst all these people working together. And so my question to you is, do you think that the CBSA has done enough to ensure there's appropriate oversight of employees and their relationships with prospective contract bidders looking to find this work and understanding how to get it?
Okay, so he can't land the plane. Maybe just quickly, if anyone has watched this, is this something that is worth suffering through, or do we skip Baines? I know there's some votes to skip them already, but I just want to make sure we're not going to be missing anything important. So let's just get a quick sense of if anyone has seen it. I'd be very, very enthusiastic to skip them, just as long as we're not going to be missing anything significant.
Well, we're waiting for some responses. Thank you to David Edwards with a $2 super chat. It says, earned that he is not aware that he is not aware.
Okay, well, I'm not seeing anyone saying stay, so I'll just skip. So stand by for that.
Baines, Mrs. Vignola for 2.5, please.
That felt good.
Merci.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'd just like to come back to some of my previous questions. When I asked you what were the effects of the measures that you have put in place, you spoke about transparency and strengthening. You spoke about a second line of defense. Do you have any criteria, both quantitative and qualitative, to measure the effects of the measures that you have put in place?
Very good question by Vignola, because here's the thing. The government just likes to throw process at things and say, oh, look, we fixed it. It's fine. Don't look there anymore. But whenever you're altering a process, wherever you're implementing a process, what you should have is measurable criteria to understand if what you're implementing is going to be successful and if it actually is successful. So that's actually, so some measures of marks of a good process are A, if the process runs successfully, but B, if you have appropriate controls within that process to actually be able to tell you, is the process being followed? So very good question from Vignola. Gokodani with a $5 super chat. Best place to have a date night anywhere. Cheers on getting a solo with the Brockinator.
Thank you. We're super excited. Should be a lot of fun.
And Tony Petipus with a $14 super chat. Thank you very much for that. Kim
It says, stop. It says, please skip goes with my super chat. LOL.
Thank you, Tony. Kim Hards with a $2 super chat. Hello.
Aww.
Hello, Pooh. That's great. I'm here to ask questions. Chris Accurate joining NP supporter. Thank you very much. Daphne Devine, good to see you with a $10 super chat. Housework and Wallflower. Still learning politically thanks to you, Cypher and Fox. Happy birthday to my favorite martini shaken bartender. SWAK, miss you all, my chat friends. Maybe pop in later. Thank you very much, Daphne.
Thank you.
And 5W with a $2 super chat. My favorite flavor of Baines is pork and molasses. If I ever meet him, I'll let him know that. See what he says. Stephen C with a $5 super chat. Liberals have a gift for talking so much yet saying so little, and they actually have a gift for talking so much they actually forget what they're saying.
Yeah, they like filibuster themselves.
Yeah, and they're like, I don't even know what my question was going to be. Marie Perrin with a $2 super chat. These people should be under oath, need the truth. Yeah, like at some point they just need to swear all of these people in. That would be nice. And Jerry Savoy jumping in with 5 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you very, very much for that. Let's get back to it.
Certainly. So in terms of our second line of defence on financial controls, we do random selective testing of invoices. And at the moment, we're doing about 5% of those invoices. And we're checking to make sure that they comply with all the various rules and regulations.
Merci.
Unfortunately,
Thank you. I'm so sorry, but I only have 2.5 minutes. Are they permanent measures?
Les trois mesures que vous avez.
The 3 measures that you named.
they are permanent measure, and the testing of invoices has been going on for many years.
Merci. Je vois.
Thank you. I see that you're testing for contracts that exceed $40,000. What explains the fact that $2, $3, $5, and $6 million contracts weren't tested beforehand? What is your reaction when you're faced with that? Did you just sign it off and let's let the money fly away? It's only the taxpayers' money. Why was there no testing before October 2022 when this issue arose?
So I think the thing I would say is during the COVID, it was a very intense period of time, and we were relying on the delegations of authorities to the DFSA. We're also relying on the oversight of PSBC for their contracts.
We were relying on other people to watch what we were doing. Really? Oh, it's chaotic time, so you can't expect us to provide oversight on $5 million or $10 million or $50 million.
Well, it's just taxpayer money,
right? Who
Come
cares?
on, like it's limitless. We can always print more.
WTF.
Thank you, Pierre.
And that was absolute sarcasm from me, by the way.
Yes, absolutely was. Absolute sarcasm from Diane, or partially some sarcasm in here. Diane Sylvain with a $50 super chat. That is awesome news, Cypher and Fox. Brock is on a mission of justice, and so awesome he is coming back. I can send you possible questions, although you really do not need me, as you're so close to being liars. By now, just an offer.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. If we need help, we will let you know. We are going to be rewatching committee from last week that was on SNC Lavalin, and
be catching up on all our notes.
Yeah, we'll probably be good. But if there's anything that we definitely need, we will definitely throw it your way. Thank you very much for the offer. And I think that is up to date. Let's go.
Merci.
Thank you. In October 2022, when we started to look at the issue, we heard $54 million for ArriveSCAM. So we said to ourselves, that includes a cost for advertising and so on. And now we're faced with a huge amount, $6 million for calls to bid by Service Canada. Why, rather for the call centers at Service Canada, why was Service Canada call centers, why were they so involved? What does it cost now in advertising to inform people for the app, for its use?
Very brief answer, or perhaps you can get back to us in writing.
Yes, certainly. I think very briefly, the Service Canada call centres were operating for 2 years. They actually managed 645,000 calls from members of the public, from travellers.
Thank you. Mr. Bacharach, please.
So the ArriveSCAM was so easy to use that over 500,000 people, 640,000 people, had to call the Service Canada call center.
Well, and if you listen to what the border guards were saying, was that they spent less time doing their actual jobs and more time trying to help people figure out their ArriveSCAM app.
Right? Which technically they shouldn't be doing, because that's them entering their information for customs and all the rest of this stuff.
Well, and they made it so that absolutely everybody entering the country had to do it. Like, some people don't have cell phones. I mean, I think of my grandparents who are in their 90s, and if they had traveled to the States, for example, and wanted to come back, they would have needed an ArriveSCAM app. They don't have phones.
Yep.
What are they going to do? Like, it's ridiculous.
Talk to a CBSA guard, apparently.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous to assume that everybody has the same, number one, access to technology, and number two, familiarity with technology, that they can use something like that.
Yeah, like what happens when people don't bring their phones? Because often, like, put it this way, if I would ever go to a country like Cuba or Mexico, guess what I'm not bringing? I'm not bringing my phone. Because some of those countries are known to actually confiscate that stuff.
Well, and I think anytime you and I have traveled, the only time we bring our phones is when we've stayed within Canada. I mean, if we're going on a day trip to like New York State or something, that's different. But
Yeah, I would not bring a phone out of country on vacation. You're asking for trouble. You're really, really asking for trouble. So,
anywho.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Moore, a question about the CBSA's involvement with Bottler. And granted, this deals with a different project than ArriveSCAM, but I think it raises some of the same concerns around the diligence of the agency to confirm that the work was actually completed. So in 2021, the company Dalian submitted invoices for work done by Bottler, and specifically those invoices included billing for time allegedly spent on the project by Ritika Dutt, one of the principals of Bottler. At the time, Ms. Dutt was on medical leave, and this was known to CBSA's Border Technologies and Innovation Directorate, and yet they went ahead and paid the invoice to Dalian anyway. Why was that done, given that they knew that Ms. Dutt couldn't possibly have done the work since she was on leave?
So in February 2021, CBSA contracted with Carvadix in a joint venture with Dalian. It was for 6 particular outputs. And so what the CBSA did was they paid for 2 of those outputs because that work had been done. They did not pay for the other 4 outputs because that work was not done to a satisfactory level. It was not about individuals. We were not paying on an hourly basis. We were paying on an output basis.
But the invoices that were paid specified work done by Ms. Dutt, correct?
Specified work which had been done. They did not specify who did it within the Bottler organization.
So, okay, on the invoices, there was no indication of who was being billed for the work?
Well, it was on a task-based system, so we were paying for the tasks which had been completed.
oh, he's splitting hairs and skirting answers here.
Uh-oh, that's not good.
What? Again, these MPs know the answer to these questions before they're asking, right? So Backrack's already basically saying it's a given that these invoices for Bottler had Ritika Dutt's name on it. So he's saying, why did you pay that directly to, knowing that she was on leave? And then they said, oh, well, it wasn't specifically to one person. It was to Bottler. And then Backrack's saying, yeah, but it said that she was the one doing the work and she was on leave. Well, it was a task-based, like he's trying to get around this question. I hope Backrack doesn't let him off.
Okay, but for these task authorizations, there are timesheets, correct?
The timesheets are not relevant when you're doing tasks because what you're doing is you're saying, we will pay you this amount of money for delivering this output. We're not saying we will pay you X dollars per hour.
So at the completion of that work, there's documentation submitted to indicate that the work was completed and who did the work, correct?
Well, no, there's a document. So
Okay.
They were writing particular documents. We received those documents and we decided whether the documents had satisfied the requirements of the task authorization. So one of the documents, for example, could have been a plan. If a plan was satisfactory, we did not have any input into who wrote the plan.
Did Ms. Dutt okay?
Unless it's a very quick question.
Well, did Ms. Dutt contact CBSA and advise you not to pay the invoices because it was for work that was not completed?
So my understanding is Ms. Dutt did contact the CBSA, but that was inappropriate because we should not be working with subcontractors.
Wow, folks. Someone, she did contact CBSA. She did tell us, not to pay an invoice. And that was actually, very forthright and upstanding of her. But we don't want to listen to that because that's inappropriate. Unreal, folks. Unreal. Like, jeez. All right, well, we're moving on. Vesper Digital with a $5 super chat. What? Did he just say they're reviewing only 5% randomly selected contracts? Why is CBSA playing bingo with taxpayer dollars? Yeah, it's a good question.
Is that not what auditors do, though? They just kind of do them at random, or they'll take like a certain percentage at random?
So auditors will, but that's when auditors don't know if there's going to be any issues found.
Oh, so this is like we've found the problem, and why are they only taking 5% when they know there's a problem?
Yeah, like...
Got it.
So if an auditor was looking at this and they've seen these issues, they would be saying, give me everything.
So the fact that they're like, oh, we found issues, just give me 1 in 20 of them.
Yeah, 5% is normal for a mature process that you have demonstrated to be working. You don't just automatically institute 5% when you've gone from ArriveSCAM to, okay, well, we've implemented these improvements. So yeah, we're completely confident that this is going to be working flawlessly. So now we're only going to be looking at 5%. It's a joke. It's a complete joke of a process control that they're only doing 5%. Excellent comment, Vesper. 5W with a $5 super chat. Everyone was locked down and nobody was allowed to go anywhere, so it was super hard to secure our borders. Very confidence building.
Yeah,
Right.
that doesn't make any sense. People were traveling less than probably at any other point in this country's history, and they needed ArriveSCAM to secure our borders.
Right? Like no one was allowed to go anywhere.
Yeah.
The only people that was for critical supply chain management,
Or if you worked
health.
across the border as like a nurse or something, let's say.
Yeah, it was like if your job was mission critical, that's it.
That's not our role.
Thank you very much. Mr. Berthold, welcome back to OGO.
Merci, Président. Monsieur Moore?
Mr. Moore, I want to come back to an answer that you gave my colleague with respect to this letter about the national security, as she says, that there were certain rigorous processes that could be exempted. Were you aware of the fact that this was a request?
We're talking about the national security exemption and about the reference to an alternative supplier.
Yeah.
Mike, would you?
So you signed it? I have your signature.
Yeah, no, it was sent by me to PSBC.
And bah, écoutez,
yeah.
Mr. Berthold, I think he's one of the I would say most underappreciated and unpublicized very good trolls on the conservative bench. He's so polite, but the way he looks at you, he's like, I know more than you. I know more than you. And he's like, you signed here. Like, just the way he does, it's so polite, but it's so
condescending.
Yeah, it's
great.
really, really effective the way he approaches this. I really appreciate it. Nilik with a $2 super chat. New meme idea. Minions. What? Could be. Coco Donnie with a $2 super chat. When do the bus bumps part of this game start? I imagine shortly.
More.
No, it's me. Yes.
So vous avez signé.
You signed. I don't understand why you hesitate. Was this letter at the very origin of the fiasco that cost $80 million for the agency? If this exemption had not been requested, would we be in the position that we're in today?
So the national security exemption was requested by PSBC for them to access the powers at the start of the COVID pandemic. The national security exemption...
Mais c'est vous, Monsieur Moore, vous avez beau parler...
Yes, but you can talk about PSPC, but it's your signature and your letter. You asked Ms. Marianne Reza, Deputy ADM of PSPC, to provide that exemption. And in the letter, you said that we have found a supplier that has the modern technology to offer. I mean, I'm not going to go on quoting it, but you did not seem to know who the supplier was.
I think the supplier was about a commercial. It was not about ArriveSCAM. But Mr. Leahy, who's in the commercial trademark.
Monsieur Moore.
Mr. Moore, you signed it. You are the signatory of the letter. You are saying to the Deputy Minister, the ADM, that there is a modern tool that will be effective, but yet today you can't tell us who that supplier was?
Well, it was an example, but we did not use it.
C'est un exemple.
It's an example, but it's like the examples on the GC strategies site, Mr. Moore, or where Mr. Firth and Mr. Anthony quoted many officials from the federal government without being able to give us names. And you're doing exactly the same thing. You're citing that you found a supplier. Well, who was the supplier? And why would that serve as an example to justify an exemption from the rigorous procedures of supply of PSPC with respect to an issue that should have cost 80 million but now is in the hundreds of million? So it's very difficult for me to understand who's responsible here. It's your signature.
I think if you allow Mr. Leahy to speak, he will give you the details.
Only if you have a name. Seulement s'il y a un nom.
Only if you have a name.
As context, the national security exemption
Je
applies.
veux pas de contexte, juste le nom.
I don't want the context, I want the name.
Good man, Luke. Good man. So this is good. He's cornering Moore on this. He's like, dude, you signed this. So what was the name of the supplier? What was it? And they're trying to dance around this and like they have been all committee, right?
I mean, it should be a straightforward answer. Why isn't he giving it?
Should be. Absolutely it should be. So, like, what's the problem? And then this guy's like, well, let me give the context. And I love Luke. He's just like, no. I don't need the context. What was the name?
Where it's marked XREF transport on the last page. We found a supplier that's already put into operation a modern tool, XREF transport, right beside it. Transport XREF is a system for it's XR company. Well, thank you so much for telling me that. It's not complicated. Then I find it very surprising, though, Mr. Moore, that you weren't able to tell us who the supplier was. Mr. Moore, is there someone in the entire GC strategy process who would, at any moment, raised a red flag to you to say something might be wrong?
Au fur et à mesure des...
During the 176 updates?
No. There was no one was raised a red flag about GC strategies until the committee started its investigation.
Vous êtes le dirigeant...
You are the director of finance for this area. Is that correct? And therefore, are you the one that signs contracts and checks to suppliers?
So I was not personally responsible for ArriveSCAM. However, as an executive of the CBSA, I do have accountability.
Who is the executive?
I was the CFO at that time.
Yeah.
And I was an executive of the CBSA, and so I take responsibility for the failures which have been identified, and I am also responsible for the improvement plan which we are developing to ensure this does not happen again.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kuzmirchuk, please, sir. Go ahead.
So, if you're wondering why Mr. Moore is testifying, he just said, I was the CFO. That's Chief Financial Officer. That's
the guy in charge of the money.
The guy in charge of all of the money for the Canada Border Services Agency. That's why he's here. And that's why he is supposed to know all these answers. Anyway, let's continue. Oh, wait a minute. No, there is a $2 super chat by Chris Accurate. Maybe Moore lent his signature like Mr. Yo-Yo did.
I still can't believe that.
Yeah.
That's just lunacy.
And then he thought that was done.
Well, it's not my fault.
No, it's delegated. It's not literally given to other people, you yo-yo. Jeez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And
I am not listening to Consumer Check. I don't think anyone's going to complain about that.
Oh, I saw who's next, though.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Mr. Seaback, welcome to OGO. The floor is yours for 5 minutes, sir.
You can be feisty.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I see that today we actually have some gentlemen at the committee that I'd like to ask some questions about Karm. I see Mr. Leahy there and Mr. Martel, the Director of Procurement. The challenge that I have with Karm is the complete lack of inconsistent statements on when this project began and how much it will cost. To quote Macbeth, it seems like there's something rotten in Denmark. Mr. Gallivan testified at the Trade Committee. This was started in 2010, and it was a $370 million project. In the Gazette Part 2 that just came out on March 13th, 2024, this government states that in 2014, CBSA began the design and implementation of the Karm project, and the Karm project is a $526 million
Point of order,
contract.
Sorry,
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Seaback, I'll stop the clock.
Bet you they're going to say relevance. I bet you. So, if you're wondering what Karm is, Karm stands for the CBSA Assessment and Revenue Management Digital Initiative. That's what Karm is. So it's basically a new system that was or is being built for over $300 million by Deloitte for collecting duties and taxes on commercial goods that are coming into Canada. That's what Karm is. And we've had a couple of people raise this to us before. The problem is there's so many scandals that we can only focus on a certain number of them, like maybe 2 or 3 at a time.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just the two of us and Barnaby manning the bar.
Yeah, so I'm gonna need Barnaby to give us some drinks soon. But yeah, to quote Inglourious Basterds, that's a bingo.
That's a point of order.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, I don't mean to interrupt my my honourable colleague's train of thought, but I just wanted to know the relevance here. This is the ArriveSCAM study, and we are looking into ArriveSCAM and not Karm. And so I just kindly would ask my colleague to establish the relevance to the study on ArriveSCAM.
The irrelevance, Mr. Kazmierczuk, is the CBSA has shown that it can't even, manage the funds of a lemonade stand, let alone the Canada Border Services Agency, which is obviously, managing a budget of hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars. And isn't it funny now that the Liberals are like, oh, no, don't talk about Karm. No, don't talk about that. Just let's talk about ArriveSCAM. Like, it makes you almost say, wait a minute, why don't you want us to talk about Karm? Let's talk about Karm. Let's talk about that.
Thank you.
I actually see the relevance, so I'll allow to continue. I think we heard from witnesses that Deloitte, which is running Karm, was messing up Karm and therefore was in the penalty box, which led to us getting GC strategies. So I do appreciate your point, but I do see the link.
Kelly to the rescue.
Go ahead. You've got 4 minutes and 4 seconds.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. That just, I do apologize, but that is such a tenuous thread, if I could even call it that. And again, again, we're here on a constituency week. May I remind the chair to study ArriveSCAM, and I'd prefer us to focus on ArriveSCAM. And again, what is the link to Karm? I don't see it, Mr. Chair. I don't see it.
Well, the link is the contracting irregularities that took place in Karm, and therefore Deloitte was allegedly put in the penalty box, which is how we end up with GC strategies. So the link is pretty direct, and exploring how we got to GC strategies through the problems with Karm might illuminate the committee with respect to this study.
I'm fine with that. Go ahead, Mr. Seaback. You have 4 minutes and 4 seconds.
Kelly's so polite. That's Kelly McCauley speak for shut up. And the fact that the chair says this is the relevance, like, discussion's over, move on. And like, who cares? It's his time. If he wants to use it talking about, skiing, it's up to him. If you consider it a waste of time, well, that's your prerogative. Trish Pro with a $5 super chat. So sick and tired of all the I take responsibility, but they really don't. Looking forward to Mr. Brock interview. Thank you very much.
Yes, so are we. Thank you.
And Mr. G with a $40 super chat. Can't stick around, but Pierre coming to Windsor on Saturday.
Ooh, I saw that.
This will be my third time meeting him, and I've never once seen Brian Mass in person. I can't believe we are stuck with him and Eric. SOS, yeah. Well, tell Pierre we said hi. Okay. So John Gauthier saying he's lost on Karm. So as I said before, it's this big $370 million project that the government has been paying Deloitte to implement, that is modernizing how the Canada Border Services Agencies actually collects duties and taxes on commercial goods that are crossing the border. So they had there's a existing system, and I guess it's not very good. So they've been paying Deloitte hundreds of millions of dollars to build this new system. And the question is why the heck is this costing $370 million of taxpayer money? That's where Karm gets to. And Daphne Devine with a $10 super chat. Apologies for that. The link is the CEO just said they're learning so it doesn't happen in the future. Not that we care of the future, we care of the now. Who's responsible and who's doing time? Absolutely. 420 hitter with a $2 super chat. Cartman, you will respect my authority. Oh yeah, I gotta get that meme because we need that one. Here we go.
Thanks very much. So was this actually a project that started in 2010, as Mr. Gallivan stated, or in 2014, which you published in the Gazette a mere 2 weeks ago?
So maybe if I can just deal with the penalty box. So I'm not aware of anyone saying that Deloitte were in the penalty box. And it is worth, identifying that Deloitte worked on us for a number of other things as well. So myself in the Finance and Corporate Management branch,
we'll be happy to provide that from the ATIPs to the committee, and we'll bring you back to talk about it. But if you could answer my question, which is this a project that started in 2010 or 2014? Because your government is saying two absolutely contradictory things.
I'll ask Mr. Leahy to answer this.
Yeah, so the March 2010 is the first phase of Karm, so that is in the critical path material that was provided at in our trade committee. You'll see that. Is that ARL? That is ARL, yes.
Wait, so that's the subsequent program to Karm?
It is the precursor to, like a revenue ledger is extended into Karm, but the language in the submission you'll see is both Karm, ARL. It's interchangeable.
Okay, so what I can't understand is the cost. So what we heard from Mr. Gallivan is $370 million. But what we've also heard at committee was that you've spent $438 million. These two things are very inconsistent. But what actually concerns me the most is this. In a transition document prepared for the VP of CBSA on July 31st, 2021, it says the costs are $371.5 million. But interestingly enough, that nothing in the estimates or anything else adds up to that at that time point. And in fact, you sign a contract on October 6, 2021 for $325,778. Now, is this contract a result of verbal approvals that were given to Deloitte to do work, and you had to then prepare a new contract with Deloitte?
So maybe I can ask Mr. Leahy to respond to the detail, but I think what I will say at the start is the Karm project has been a long-running project. The first two elements of Karm have been delivered. So the agency revenue ledger has been put online.
I know, but that's not answering my question. My question was, The cost identified in the transition document to the VP, July 31st, 2021, is $371 million. Nothing in the estimates or supplemental interest adds up to that, but there is a contract on August 6, 2021 for $322,125,778. It appears to me that this is creating a contract to deal with the overruns, because there was a contract for Deloitte in 2018 for $32 million, which now appears to be turned into a $322 million contract a mere 3 years later. Is this the result of verbal authorizations that had to be covered with a new contract?
So again, I'll say we did not come prepared to this committee to answer questions on Karm. We're very happy to bring back the detailed information unless Mr. Leahy can answer now.
I can say definitively it wasn't based on a verbal contract, if that was the question. So
verbal approvals for work. Verbal approvals for work that lead to the necessity of a new contract.
That is not the case. So I think the evidence that we're bringing forward from our trade committee will demonstrate the history and bring clarity, hopefully, to the question you raised about the lineage of this of the contract. So that material is coming forward to committee.
Thank you, Mr. Lay. Thank you, Mr. Seaback. Mr. Sousa, please, for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm interested at some point in them diving into Karm, because $370 million. I don't understand that. I really don't understand that. I don't think in all of the budgets that I've been a part of in my career that adds up to even close to a third of that. $370 million.
That's a lot of money.
I would really like them to dig into that, because that puts ArriveSCAM to shame in terms of the amount. And given what we've seen in terms of the ineptitude of the CBSA to manage taxpayer money, I think they have to put a study in on that. So, anyhow, Kim Hards with a $2 super chat. Mr. Moore is the perfect post turtle. Yes,
I'll explain what a post turtle is if some of you don't know. It's okay, so imagine this. Close your eyes and picture this. You're driving down a country road. There's nothing around. And there's this white fence that just runs the length of the road. And you see something on the fence, so you stop your car and you go over. And it's a turtle. And he's on his belly on this fence post. And you're like, well, how did this turtle get there? There's nobody around. He doesn't belong there. He has no idea what he's doing up there. And he has no way of getting down or doing anything useful. So that's what a post turtle is, especially when it comes to politicians. They don't belong there. They're not doing anything. Like, they're not doing a good job because they can't do anything up there. They don't belong there. And they definitely didn't get there on their own. So. And
no one seems to know how they're there, and they don't know what they're doing. So it's a post turtle is a wonderful analogy. And Will Kowalchuk, I assume, is thanking Fox for that with a $10 super chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Will.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Mr. Seaback, when was, just following up very quickly on Karm, when was it first developed?
Point of order, we shouldn't be talking about Karm. This has nothing to do with ArriveSCAM. Kazmirchuk, no? You're not going to raise your point of order? Relevance? No? Didn't think so.
I think this meant for you, Mr. Leahy.
For me? Yes. So the initial funding allocations came in March 2010.
And when was Deloitte awarded the first contract for the project?
There were two small contracts around that activity, and then the major contract was in February 2018. But the initial two contracts to begin work on Karm ARL, I don't have the precise dates in front of me, but they were awarded around the March 2010 timeline.
So was a majority of the project funding allocated before October 2015?
There were two allocations of funding. So there was an initial allocation, as I mentioned, around that timeline, and then there was a contract award in February of 2018.
Nice try, Sousa. Holy moly, he's getting redder by the minute. So what he was trying to do there is basically say, oh, it's the Conservatives' fault. It's the Harper government's fault that Karm's off the rails. but CBSA is admitting themselves, well, there was 2 small contracts, but the big one was during the Liberal government. So that kind of backfired on you, Susan. Get your facts straight before you ask your questions.
Out of curiosity, how much expected loss of revenue would exist as a result of Karm's delay? Like I know you have an estimate why Karm exists, and they're expected to capture some funding. Any idea?
A rough estimate would be about $3 million a month.
Okay. Mr. Moore, post-pandemic now, new normal, changes are being made. Do you still see poor record keeping happening on any other projects at this point? Recognizing some of the issues that have arisen from both the Ombudsman and the Auditor General?
So I think knowledge management and record keeping is always going to be an issue. I think it's an issue around the world in terms of how you ensure that you have the right records, especially post-COVID, which I think impacted as particularly. So we are definitely putting in place ways in which we can improve our record keeping, and I think the good example of that is the Procurement Review Committee is going to be completely minuted, and all the records will be kept centrally by the governance unit.
A lot of suggestions about interrelationships between prospective contract bidders and relationships with employees. Do you think CBSA has done enough to ensure that appropriate oversight is being taken in this respect?
Important to say that if a contractor has worked on developing an RFP, then they are precluded from bidding for that RFP. That is part of our rules and our regulations. So if we find that the investigation says that there's evidence behind that, then action will be taken on that. That is not acceptable. The only time you can use a contractor to help you develop an RFP is if it's a technical requirement, and then the individual who helped you or the company who helped you have to preclude them from bidding on that contract.
Have you been approached by RCMP?
I have not been approached by the RCMP.
You're aware of the reviews obviously being done internally in respect to these issues?
I'm aware of the reviews being done internally, and the Security and Professional Standards Directorate do report to the CFO. However, for reviews of executives, all of the reporting is done directly to the Deputy Minister, the President, and I am not being party to any information on those investigations.
Have you ever feel pressured by elected officials in respect to these files?
No, I have not experienced any pressure from elected officials, and actually as the CBSA, our Minister is the Minister of Public Safety, and I very rarely see the Minister unless it is about supplementary estimates or main estimates.
And the code of conduct amongst you and your team is very, very clear?
So the CBSA has a very clear code of conduct, which is always kept under review and will be updated. But also we have the overarching public safety ethics responsibilities as well.
How many contracts a year does the CBSA undertake?
So maybe I can ask Alex Martel to answer this.
About 1,500. About 1,500 a year. Yeah.
A year. And in respect to this, the issue around the ArriveSCAM component, there's some discrepancy still about the costs. And you mentioned two different costs, one in regards to the immigration component of it, one in regards to the support for the pandemic. Can you elaborate a bit further on this?
So there are two elements to ArriveSCAM. So if you look at, well, certainly on my mobile phone, I still have the ArriveSCAM app. I've used it a couple of weeks ago to return to Canada.
Just plug it whenever you can, Mr. Moore. Because the more you plug it, the less Canadians will feel that it was wasted money.
Yeah, this seems like a very bizarre strategy.
Well, and here's the thing that they're not even talking about, folks, is there's an ongoing cost to maintaining ArriveSCAM as well. So that's like, the cost didn't just cap out at $60 million and that's it.
Yeah, because there's support costs, there's like infrastructure costs with like the servers and stuff like that.
Well, and they'll still be patching the thing.
Yep. But nobody's using it. Last time I heard any of the Liberal MPs say how many people were using it, they said it was about 10% of people coming into Canada.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that's an overestimation.
Probably. 5W with a $5 super chat. Sousa should pay one of those. Should play one of those marches of his. Maybe the Charlatan. Yeah. Good classical music reference. And if anybody's wondering, this is how Sousa's doing. So he's probably a little concerned. And here's Mr. Baines.
Man, you know, Sousa's face is almost as red as that Liberal bar.
Yeah,
almost.
So they're not doing that great. Not doing that great. And Kazmierczuk, he's in danger of losing his seat as well. So, but anyhow, let's just make sure I'm not missing anybody.
Down.
YouTube is oh, there we go. Diane Sylvain with a $10 super chat. Fox, I love that post-turtle story. I have a friend who lives in Mississippi. I have learned southern USA sayings. Mr. Moore is like a cow looking at a new gate. Cows are puzzled by new gates.
Yeah, from what I recall about cows in school, like anything that's new or different, they'll freeze to be like, what is that? That's not normal. I don't like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, kind of like liberals and talking about Karm until they're okay with talking about Karm.
One of the things the Auditor General did point out was the benefits that ArriveSCAM is now ongoing. It's still ongoing. The work we have developed during the public health testing stage is now available for us to use for the advanced declaration.
Thank you,
So
Mr.
the discrepancy
Sousa.
in the cost.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's our time. Unless you have a very quick question that you can respond in writing to, Mr. Sousa.
No, it's okay. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Thanks. Mrs. Vignola, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mr. Moore, the measures, those three measures that you put in place, are they being applied for existing current contracts? For example, the management of resources for the CBSA.
They are being applied to all contracts. The only exception is Karm, which is being managed by the Executive Committee directly. There's a subcommittee for Karm.
Donc, GCRA.
So Karm is not being, managed.
But by a separate committee.
Faire connaître l'application,
Add other important characteristics for the app, make people aware of the app. That's what Madame La Douceur said with respect to a question put to her by a journalist rather. So you have to better understand the app to be able to better use it. So it's about 300,000 people monthly who use it, but that's 13% of the totality of travelers, which is quite a lot between you and me. So how are you going to get it better known? What will it cost? And what other characteristics? How much money is going to be put annually into doing that, and for how long?
So the maintenance of the existing app is costing just under $3 million. That is for cloud hosting and for technical support. The actual advertising is largely being done by third parties. So while I was on the plane coming back, it was Air Canada who was saying, use ArriveSCAM, it will speed up your border process. And we're seeing at the airports also extensive advertising of the benefits of ArriveSCAM.
Merci.
Thank you. Why it isn't applied for the land borders? Why is it only used for airports?
Is to roll out ArriveSCAM at the land borders. That's part of our traveller modernisation project, which is ongoing at the moment. Clearly it was during COVID as part of the public health measures, but the e-declaration will be rolled out at the land borders shortly.
So that can be concerning. And the reason why it can be concerning is in one of the earlier committees, they talked about one of the requirements of ArriveSCAM is to be able to track, whether the person has actually crossed the border. The only way they'd be able to do that is if the app, by way of your phone, was sending GPS data through the ArriveSCAM infrastructure to the federal government. So unless that has been taken out, I see no justification why that would be needed for people just entering the country. And if it hasn't been taken out, it needs to be taken out. Because you have no business knowing where people are at any particular time when they cross the border. That's an overreach. So that would be an interesting one to look at in terms of that functionality and if it's still there. Make sure I haven't missed anything. Let's see. Yes, I have. Good. Glad I looked. So we have a super chat from Stealthy Raptor for $10. Thank you very much. Small business boner here. I cross the border every week, and if I had $1 for every time I was told to make sure that I'm up to speed on Karm, only for it to be delayed again, I could retire. Yeah, I believe it. I absolutely believe it, and it wastes all the small business owners' time to actually spend the time to look it up and see if there's anything that they need to know. Oh, never mind, it's delayed. Thanks very much for wasting my time again. There you go. There you go. And we got our answer from Mr. Moore there. $3 million a year in maintenance. Are you drunk? For an app? Are you seriously drunk?
Most apps don't even cost that to build, let alone maintain.
Like, okay, so there's cloud hosting costs. Okay, that's not going to cost anywhere near $3 million unless you took every single system that you have in the CBSA and put that in the cloud. And if you did that, you're a bunch of morons. So, anyway, I have no words for the amount that they're charging annually for the maintenance of ArriveSCAM. So there you go. It's not $60 million. So it would have cost another $3 million last year, $3 million this year. And with inflation, that's probably going to go up.
Merci.
Thank you.
Before we go to Mr. Bachrach, would you be able to clarify? You mentioned $3 million. Is that $3 million a year?
It's $3 million a year because we have to
Oh yeah,
cloud
I'm not
hosting,
questioning
all
why.
these
I'm
other
just I
costs.
couldn't understand if it was $3 million a year. Thanks very much, Mr. Bachrach, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Moore, going back to my original questions around invoicing, would it be fraudulent for a contractor to submit an invoice to CBSA indicating that a certain resource had been used to complete the work when that resource wasn't, in fact, used to complete the work? Would that be fraudulent?
Hypothetically, if we knew a company called GC Strategies did that, would that be fraudulent? Just hypothetically?
It would be if it was a staff augmentation contract. So, for example, if we had asked for a level 3 technical architect and we were delivered a level 2 technical architect, that would be fraudulent. But in this case, in the Bottler case, we were asking for an outcome, for an output, and so therefore we were judging the quality of the output on the quality of the work done, not on who did it.
So can I take it from your comments that there was no process to confirm which resources were used in getting to that outcome? What CBSA was concerned with was the quality of the outcome, not the resources that were used to get there?
And especially in this case, because this was a subcontractor to the vendor who we contracted with.
Now, that subcontractor didn't have a contract, just to be clear, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is this idea that different resources in these task authorizations, different resources are valued at different amounts. And we've heard at this committee about the bait and switch approach that some unscrupulous companies use, where they suggest that certain resources are going to be used in order to get the work. And then when the work is actually done, they use different resources that cost them less. Here we have a case where a contractor is indicating that a certain resource was involved in the work when in fact they weren't. And you're saying that that isn't a problem?
The contract, if Bottler's contract would be with Dalian Coradix, it's not with us. We were contracting with Dalian Coradix, and we were asking them to produce 6 documents. And, it was not relevant to us who was producing those documents. What was relevant to us was the quality of the documents in line with the statement of works.
Is it required that the resources used be cited on the invoice? I'm looking at the invoice right here. It includes the task number and the specific resources that were utilized in completing the work. Is that a requirement of the invoicing process?
Not in this case, because we were asking for a task, we weren't asking for individuals. That is a requirement if it's a staff augmentation contract, because then we will need to check that we have the right skills and experience to do the work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Duncan, welcome to OGO. Please go ahead, sir.
So this is most likely related to the allegations of identity theft, in which Dalian and Cordex put Miss Dutt's name on an invoice stating that she did the work, submitted it to the government, and got paid as a result of it. So that's probably what that is being related to. And here's the government saying, we don't care. You can't make this stuff up, guys. You really, really can't. Let's see if I've missed anything. I don't think I have. No, looks like we're good.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Auditor General said in her report that the documentation provided by the CBSA, the financial records and controls were so poor that they were unable to determine the precise cost, and they pegged it at $60 million. That report's been out now for 50 days. Mr. Moore, can you tell us if you've provided any follow-up documentation since this report to the Auditor's Office to further clarify what exactly the cost of ArriveSCAM was?
Work with the Auditor General on identifying the costs which we had assigned to public health.
I'm going to ask you, sorry, since the report was tabled, have you provided any further clarification from her report about the exact cost of ArriveSCAM after the report was tabled?
No, we have not provided any further information, but the information we've agreed to provide to this committee, we're very happy to share with the Auditor General.
So it's been 50 days, and your work was frankly shredded by the Auditor General and said the number has not been clarified, can't even get an exact number, and you've not provided anything in 50 days to clear up any of the misperception or actually get a firm number.
Well,
and remember, Jonathan Moore was the Chief Financial Officer. It's his job to know exactly how much ArriveSCAM cost. And he's saying, oh, well, you know, we can... the documents that we're sharing with you, we can also share with the Auditor General. And he's like, Mr. Duncan is saying, no. Why haven't you been proactively looking to provide additional documentation to the Auditor General? What's wrong with you? Like, post-turtle. I think the analogy is perfect.
As I've said before, I don't think it's possible to get a completely firm number because in the first year we did not have a separate accounting code. What we did was we used our experts to make their best estimate of how much it would cost. Our best estimate remains $55 million.
Well, let me ask you this, because we're now aware that 76% of contractors who did actually no work on this, that billed the CBSA. We know there's record of shredded documents that is well known and been shared with Canadians. And again, the Auditor General said there were weak financial controls and record keeping when it came to your work. So as a CFO, do you think that a third-party forensic audit of ArriveSCAM is necessary based on what you now know and the points I just raised?
So I think you've raised a number of different points in there. So the Procurement Ombudsman referred to the 76%. That was actually the question which was previously about sort of who does the work. When you're using staff augmentation, we were checking the individuals had the sufficient qualifications.
But I'm going to ask this at a high level. Of all the facts that I raised and the circumstances and what you know now as the CFO, do you believe that an independent third-party forensic audit is necessary with ArriveSCAM? We have shredded documents. The Auditor General said there was weak financial records and controls. And the Procurement Ombudsman report, yes or no? Do you believe that a third-party forensic audit is required here in the circumstance?
I don't think it would add any additional because we've already had a third-party audit in terms of the Auditor General.
No.
No?
The Auditor General does not count as a third party. A third-party auditor could be given the scope to cover both Dalian, or not both, all of Dalian, Coredex, GC Strategies, and any other company that actually was involved in ArriveSCAM. They would be given the ability to go in and get the information needed, and go into CBSA and get the information needed. That's a true third party. The problem with the Auditor General is she can only focus on what's in the government. The Procurement Ombudsman can only focus what's in the government. They can't go into the records of individual companies. A third party